I would probably say, these are gonna be talking about these are like real crimes. Like, I would imagine that this is probably gonna be triggering to some people. I would assume that this is gonna be triggering, for sure. These are real cases. This is real. These are real people and real crime that has happened. So just be aware. Oh God, just go. Just go. Just don't even think. Just go.
On the evening of February 24th, 1986, 29-year-old nurse Sherry Rasmussen was found by her husband lying dead on the living room floor. Her face was severely beaten and disfigured to the point that she was unrecognizable, and the injuries were consistent with being hit.
Captions! Jeez.
On the evening of February 24th, 1986, 29-year-old nurse Sherry Rasmussen was found by her husband lying dead on the living room floor. Her face was severely beaten and disfigured to the point that she was unrecognizable, and the injuries were consistent with being hit with a muzzle and butt plate of a gun. She also had 3 gunshot wounds to the chest that were disclosed as the official cause of death, with the medical examiner asserting that any one of the 3 bullets could have killed her. Perhaps the most disturbing discovery during the autopsy was that most of Sherry's injuries were inflicted upon her after she was killed, which was concluded due to the lack of hemorrhaging and inflammation of the injuries. This included most of the victim's facial injuries and even a bite mark on her left forearm. Even after Sherry had taken her last breath, the assailant was still inflicting an inconceivable amount of damage to her body. She was buried in a closed casket 7 days later. The homicide detectives assigned to the case immediately associated Sherry's murder with multiple break-ins that had occurred that same night on the same street. Another woman had even been assaulted and was able to give a description of 2 assailants, and this description became the sole focus of the investigation into Sherry's murder. The prime suspects were now 2 middle-aged Latino males of medium height and build. They were never found, and the case went unsolved for 23 years. By 2009, crime in Los Angeles had declined enough from its earlier levels that detectives began looking into cold cases to increase their clearance rates, which is when the Rasmussen files resurfaced. It stood out from the rest as new methods of genetic analysis discovered that the DNA found at the crime scene pointed to a single female suspect. The 2 previous male suspects were then invalidated, along with the original theory of a burglary gone wrong. The investigation into Sherry Rasmussen's murder was then reopened, and the newly appointed criminal investigators started from scratch. It was soon discovered that a statement given by Sherry's father, of whom he thought to be the prime suspect, was quickly brushed to one side, as the person in question was a serving LAPD cop from the exact department who were investigating the case. The person in question was a woman by the name of Stephanie Lazarus. She was a 25-year-old police officer at the time who had been with the force for 2 years. She had dated Sherry's husband, John Rutten, in an on and off relationship throughout college and for a short time after. It was even discovered that John had slept with Lazarus after he became engaged, and the 2 even dated for a while after Sherry's murder. She was now a 25-year veteran of the police force and had worked her way up to a senior detective of the Commercial Crimes Division. She was essentially in charge of all art-related investigations in the city of Los Angeles. The investigators went with a gut feeling and decided to make Lazarus the prime suspect, with the collection of her DNA being the very first task. Attaining it through a warrant would have let Lazarus know she was under investigation, so it had to be discreetly collected instead. Within 24 hours of becoming the prime suspect, a coffee cup she discarded while off duty was received by police. A DNA sample was then taken, and it came up as an exact match to the DNA found on Sherry Rasmussen's bite mark.
I'm sorry. Why didn't they do this 23 years ago? I'm so confused. Why didn't they just do the same thing? Why was she not a suspect before?
There's a stigma around police interrogation tactics being secretive, and how knowing this information can somehow help the guilty in deceiving their way to freedom. Yet these tactics have been public knowledge since their inception in the 1940s, and the following interrogation is a legitimate testimony into how watching an interrogation is a world apart from being subjected to one. You can know every technique in the book and each specific strategy and subtle scenario that goes along with it, but ultimately, you have no idea how you're going to react to a specific situation until you're actually in it. With that being said, knowing these tactics can still give an individual some form of advantage with regards to awareness, the investigators knew that their initial confrontation with Lazarus could in no way resemble a traditional interrogation, nor be officially classified as one, and there were two reasons for this. The first was that Stephanie would be wise to the fact that her best option would be to request legal counsel right away and end the procedure immediately. The second was that Stephanie was not about to be read her Miranda rights before being asked questions related to the investigation. A defense team could easily make anything she divulges inadmissible in court. Yet this was classed as a simple discussion between two parties, and the footage that was captured on a hidden camera was able to be submitted as evidence under surveillance footage rather than interrogation footage. The detectives created a ruse, inviting Stephanie to come in and advise them on a case involving stolen art. Knowing they were dealing with one of their own, they rehearsed and prepared for the interview more than anything they had done before. Their plan of attack was to keep the conversation as casual as possible for as long as possible, and carefully waited for the key moments to initiate the confrontation.
Stephanie, I don't know if you know my partner.
Hey,
great.
Hi. Stars, nice to meet you.
See
you guys.
Wait, that's so trippy.
Nora.
Yeah, she was a cop.
Well, have a seat. I don't want to talk about this in the squadron because I don't know who people are listening.
That's true.
And if we go to my side, everybody's always wondering what everybody else is doing.
No problem.
Okay.
The first thing the detectives do is set up a compatible tone with the suspect. She has just stepped foot inside an interrogation room, and the detectives negate the negative implications of such an environment through a friendly disposition. Consultative meetings, such as seeking advice over an art theft, can take place anywhere, and the last place detectives would choose to spend more time in would be an interrogation room. The reason they give the suspect for meeting in such an unusual location is to not spread rumors or innuendo. Yet the real reason is that all firearms have to be checked in before entering the area, and they needed the suspect to give up her gun without alerting suspicion.
But like we're talking about being busy and stuff, we've been assigned a case that we've been looking at.
Okay.
It's a new case, and reviewing the case, there's some notes to see as far as your name being mentioned.
Okay.
Do you know John Rutan?
Try and imagine for one moment that you savagely murdered a love rival in a jealous rage. Over 2 decades had passed since the act. Then all of a sudden, you're brought to an interrogation room and sat directly opposite 2 senior investigators who bring up the name of the man you committed first-degree homicide for.
John Rutan?
Rutan.
The investigators already knew how to say John Rutten's name correctly. The mispronunciation was a simple strategy to see how the suspect would react. Setting aside the element of the murder, John Rutten was the second longest relationship in Stephanie's life, and a psychiatrist later stated that this pause was 4 times as long as it should have been. She was already being deceptive by acting as if she hadn't thought about that name for so long, giving reason for her prolonged reflection, when in reality, the name John Rutten was engraved in her memory, and even when slightly mispronounced, it would have most likely taken milliseconds for her to realize exactly who the detectives were referring to.
Instantly was acting.
You did?
Yeah.
How long did you know him?
Gosh, I went to school in, let's see, went to UCLA in 1978 I started, and, you know, met him at school at the dorms.
She says she met him in the dorms, yet left out the fact that they had dated for 4 years and went on numerous holidays together. Even though she wasn't asked directly, a truthful subject would most often volunteer this information without having to be pressed for it.
We had friends, close friends?
Yeah, we're very close friends. I mean, what's this all about?
Well, it's regarding, it's a case we're working on. It involves John, and in there, some of the statements we reviewed, you know, there's notes and stuff that he knew you and stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, we good friends. Lived in the dorms for
Say
2 years.
You guys lived in the same dorm?
Yeah.
Or, oh, okay.
Yeah, Dykstra.
Okay. Were you guys just friends or anything else, or?
Yeah, we were good friends.
Yeah. Was there ever any relationship or anything that developed between you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we dated. You know, I mean, what's this all about?
Well, it's relating to his wife.
It's unfortunate that Stephanie's face wasn't captured at this moment.
I want to see her face.
Because she would have no doubt been immediately struck by the psychological reaction known as fight or flight. Her brain would have just triggered the influx of a specific cocktail of hormones in order to prepare her to either stay and deal with the threat or try and run away to safety. Stephanie chooses to fight.
Okay.
Okay. Did you know her?
Not really. I mean, I knew that he got married years ago.
Did you ever meet her?
God, I don't know.
Do you know who she was or anything?
Well, let me think. God, it's been a long time ago. I may have met her. Geez.
The words gosh, God, gee are exclamatory remarks used to express surprise or strong emotion. You will see them used continuously throughout this interrogation, which is the suspect trying to insinuate a vague memory due to a lack of contemplation on the subject matter. She's trying to emit the impression that she would have had no reason to give any further thought to John or anything related to John, since they stopped seeing each other over 2 decades ago.
You know.
Yeah.
Golly. Gee.
Let me ask you. You said you dated John. How long did you guys date?
I mean, are you guys? Is this something?
As we know, Stephanie is a cop and has been for 25 years. She will be wise to the fact that acting oblivious to the unusual development of the situation will be a glaring red flag in the eyes of the investigators. It's been shown time and again on this channel. Guilty suspects will often try and act naive to a blatant confrontation as a means to avoiding it altogether, whereas truthful subjects will address the confrontation and either refute it, or if it's subtle, want immediate clarification and transparency as to what was being insinuated.
I mean, you said I was going to interview somebody about art and how you guys are.
Here's
I mean,
Stephanie, here's the situation. It's basically
Heavy breathing.
We knew that this, when we saw this in this chrono, that maybe, there was some relationship there. That's what the chrono seemed to indicate.
The detective now subtly avoids the question altogether, but instead offers a deceptively reassuring response to the suspect. He makes a very sharp switch from the investigative subject matter to the previous topic of workplace rumors. He brings her focus back to the false perception of them being on her side. Stephanie had just asked what was going on, and now he essentially replies with, "We are your friends. We're doing you a favor."
And we didn't want to come up to you at your desk and ask those kinds of questions or do anything. You know how up there people can see what's going on if you go into an interview room or people are in there getting supplies.
Okay.
So we wanted to afford you some privacy, some confidentiality to talk about this, because we thought it might be, something, you're married to someone else, obviously, and so forth, and that you may not want to, talk about these things in that setting where someone, we don't want the rumor mill or gossip or any of that kind of stuff to start.
That's fine. I mean,
Wow.
So we did this just as a means to try and speak to you in just a confidential place where where your business isn't out there for other people in your division to know about.
Whether it be shock or the total reluctance to accept the situation at hand, Stephanie warily accepts the reassuring response without further inquiry into her initial challenge. She instead falls back into her agenda of having a foggy memory with regard to the incriminating contents.
God, that's been a million years ago. I mean, what year is it now? 2009? I mean, I graduated in 82. 82, yeah. We dated. I dated other guys. I'm sure he dated other girls.
Well, let me ask you, roughly how long would you say you guys dated?
Oh, jeez.
Golly.
I couldn't even say. I mean,
Notice how she now goes on to over-explain things that don't require an explanation, and weren't even inquired about. It's a clear-cut indication of hyperarousal and a derivative of TMT, also known as terror management theory. The suspect will go off on unrelated tangents as means for gaining momentary relief. Going into detail about trivial things affords her a brief escape from the terrifying reality eventuating before her. This is a very common occurrence in interrogations where the suspect is facing serious charges, and psychiatrists believe it to be a subconscious coping mechanism.
I started school there in 78. I started UCLA in 1978. I graduated in 82. I don't even remember what year he graduated, if it was a year or two before me.
Okay.
I think he was a little bit older than I was. I mean, I can't remember if he was born, let's say I'm born in 1960. I don't know if he was born in 58 or 59. I mean, I knew his
Jody
parents, I knew
2.0.
his sister. His brother went to Northridge. His sister spent the night at my house before. Obviously, I spent the night at his house before.
I
He
can't
spent the
imagine,
night at my house before.
Killing someone and living for 25 more years
Well,
and getting caught for it later.
Because from what you're telling me, is you guys dated while you were in
insane.
college together, right?
Yeah, and probably after college. I can't. Geez, trying to think when I met my husband. I met my husband when did I meet Scott? Let's see. I was teaching DARE, because I met Scott when I was teaching DARE up in Oregon. But we had long stopped, dating before that.
So you haven't talked to him for a long time?
Oh, I think I haven't talked to him in a long time. I couldn't even tell you when the last time I talked to him. I met Scott, I'm thinking in 92 maybe, April of 92. It was
Scott being your husband.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I was teaching DARE. Let's see, what year is this? We'll be married. I got married in 1996. I think I met Scott in 92. Prior to that, I couldn't tell you how long I had talked to John prior to that.
But since you met your husband, Scott, you haven't talked to him?
I mean, he may have called me once or twice before we got married.
Right.
Geez, I moved to Simi
She's
in 1994
freaking out.
because I lost my house in the earthquake.
Oh, really?
Quite honestly, I probably keep in contact with a few people from the dorms. We all lived on the 10th floor, and
we didn't ask.
There's about 3 or 4 people I keep in contact with. There's probably like 6 or 8 of us that were all really close.
Mm-hmm.
And who are those people?
Oh, geez. Diana Basta. People I still keep. I haven't been in contact with her in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Thought you said you were close.
I mean, what's this all about? I mean.
Well, let me ask you.
The suspect challenges the detectives for the second time, and once again the question is avoided, but this time in a more confrontational manner, as the topic is maintained with no reassurance afforded.
15.
The detectives are ramping up the pressure in a very subtle yet highly effective manner.
What ended the relationship between you and John?
It was kind of a weird relationship. I mean, we dated. I can't say that he was my boyfriend. I don't know that he would consider me his girlfriend. We dated. We did things. I played sports in college. He played basketball. His brother played basketball. It just didn't work out. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It was like I went out with other guys, saw other guys. I went on lots of vacations.
And once you guys split, were you guys still friends, or kind of, problems? Is it friendly, not friendly?
No, I don't think it was not friendly. I mean, we were friendly. I know that we went to Hawaii at one point. Yeah, I mean,
She's freaking out.
And you were saying that
it's 2009 now.
Had you ever met his wife?
I may have.
Do you know? Do you remember her name or anything, or? Or what she did for a living, or where she worked, or anything about her?
The suspect was just asked 3 consecutive questions relating to the victim. She was supposedly in a reflective state during all 3 of the questions, yet her facial expression completely changed for the 3rd one. This is because she was pretending to be in a state of reflection for the first 2 questions, as she already knew the answers, whereas for the 3rd question, she actually was in a state of reflection and was genuinely searching her memory for the correct response.
That's so trippy.
I may have.
Do you remember her name or anything, or?
The 3rd question is about to be posed, and her focus is about to switch from pretending to be thinking to actually thinking.
Or what she did for a living, or where she worked, or anything about her?
Well, I think I'm going to say I think she was a nurse. I
read like a book.
He said he met her. I mean, it's been so long ago.
Well, let me ask you, did you go to their wedding,
No, I didn't go to their wedding. No, did not go to their wedding. Couldn't even tell you what year we got married. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's been a million years ago. Again, I don't understand why you're talking about some guy I dated a million years ago.
Well, do you know what happened to his wife?
Yeah, I know she got killed.
You wouldn't need to be an expert in body language to recognize the unmitigated terror emanating from the suspect's face at this moment. She had just verbalized the victim's tragic demise for the first time in most likely over 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
What did you hear about that?
I saw a poster at work. I'm sure I spoke to him about it. I think I spoke to another friend of his about it.
And how did you first learn about that?
Jeez. someone could have called me. I could have heard it at work. I think at one point there may have been a flyer or something. I know a good friend of his...
Were you on the job back then when that happened?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm sure I was on the job. That's why I would have heard about it with the flyer. He had a good friend, Mike Boldrick, you know.
But being that you're kind of used to see John, you know, was everything okay between you guys? I mean, there was never anything uncomfortable or anything between you and her?
8 separate witnesses testified that Stephanie had confronted Sherry at the hospital she worked at, while the two of them were reportedly in an intimate relationship with John. The confrontation was said to have been highly aggressive, and Stephanie had to be escorted off the premises by security. Reports stated that Stephanie was by far the more combative, and even made threats against Sherry's life.
You know, I don't know. I mean, it's been so many years. I mean, uncomfortable. I mean, I can't even remember if we had a conversation. I mean, we may have. I may have seen her at his apartment. You know, geez, how many years ago was that? I don't even know what year she got killed.
Where was his apartment?
Notice her passive disposition as she gives the following truthful response.
On Roscoe.
Okay.
Yeah, Roscoe and
You can tell when she's like freaking out.
Either east or west of DeSoto.
When she's telling the truth.
Do you know where he moved after? Did he move after he got married, or do you know? Or
now notice how her disposition switches from passive to frantic as she once again pretends to have a vague memory.
I'm sure he did.
Did you know where he was living, or?
Somewhere in the valley.
Did you ever visit him and his wife?
No.
No, never went out to, you know, get together, dinners, anything of that nature?
No. Like I said, his sister used to come over. His sister had come to my place. I knew his brother because his brother played basketball at Northridge. In fact, I was just coming across some pictures that I had just scanned from. I take a lot of photos, like 10,000, and I just did a service where I scanned everything.
And after his wife died, did you talk to him again or anything? Yeah,
I mean, I did talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to him, probably his parents, probably some other friends. You know, I'm sure I talked to him.
Yeah.
But you're not sure where he moved to after he got married?
No idea. I mean,
never went over to visit him or
I don't think.
meet
I mean,
his
I don't
wife,
think so. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I did. I mean, I know he lived on Roscoe for a long, long time.
After John's wife died, you said you may have been talking to him. Did your relationship start up again?
I would say no. Again, can you give me a year? I mean, this is like 2009.
She died in 1986?
Yeah, I think it was 86.
1986.
Okay. Like I said, I'm faintly remembering that I went to Hawaii with my friend Greg. Greg and I got certified for scuba diving. And I'm thinking that John met us there, meaning Greg and I.
After he got married or whatever, were you dating anybody in particular?
And that was what year? 1986, you said?
I think he got married in around 85, 86, something like that. Were you seeing anyone seriously, or?
God, I couldn't say. Geez, I'm trying to think. I mean, you know, I dated a fireman.
Mike the fireman.
Randy may have dated a gal that Mike was dating, and then Randy broke up with that gal. I couldn't even tell you the gal's name, if I'm even thinking of the story right. And then I started dating Randy.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, not like I was a huge floozy or anything, but
no.
As far as you recall, after John's wife died, did you start a relationship again with John, or dating casually or anything like that?
Like I said, he met Greg and I in Hawaii.
Tangent about Hawaii.
You know, what island did we go to? I think the Big Island in Kauai.
Tangent about the
mean,
Big Island.
When you heard about John's wife being killed, I mean, what was your reaction? I mean, you thought you heard about it, what, through a friend or in a bulletin or
Either
something?
a friend or a bulletin. I called the family. I called maybe some of his friends that I knew, and I mean, obviously it's shocking if I heard it at work, you know, which I may have. I faintly remember a bulletin going around, you know.
Do you know what the circumstances were regarding her death?
Geez, let me think back.
We get it. It's a long time ago.
I don't know if it was, you know, if it was a burglary or something. Yeah, it's been so many years. I can faintly think that I may have saw a flyer.
Yeah.
May have had her picture on it. You know, that's why I say, if somebody had called me, I may not have known what her last name was. I may have. I mean, maybe if you told me, I would remember it.
Do you remember the first name?
Shelley, Sherry, I don't know, something maybe, you know, like I said, it's been so many years, and
from all the years, as far as you can remember, do you remember ever talking to her? Just
well, I said earlier, you know, I mean, I may have, and now I'm thinking I may have gone to her and say, hey, you know what, is he dating you? He's bothering me. And so I'm thinking that we had a conversation about that, one or two maybe, it could have been three. I don't want to say I had 3 conversations with her.
No.
Like at her work or at their house or?
No, I'm thinking that he obviously must have told me where she worked. I'm thinking it was a hospital somewhere in LA, and I could have been, again, what year was that? Where was I working?
Oh my God. More random tangents.
There was a big earthquake. No, when was the big earthquake?
What kind of tactic is
April
this?
'92, because I stopped teaching DARE.
We didn't ask. We didn't ask any of that.
I think I stopped teaching DARE sometime in '92.
When you said, like, hey, you know, he's calling me, he needs to knock it off or what have you, I mean, was that civil? Was there, I mean,
no, there was not. I don't think there was anything. It was, if the conversation lasted a few minutes, I can't even remember. And what is it like? You know, we went out to lunch or anything.
Right, but there was no like arguments or fights
I
or
don't think
it didn't
so.
get heated or anything like
Not
that.
that I recall. No, I mean, I would think that would stand out. I would think. Now again, that's not standing out in my mind. You know.
So you didn't have any problems with her then?
No.
You didn't have any issues with her?
No, I mean.
But let me ask you.
She's like.
It seems like you didn't have any issue. Now, did she have an issue with you as far as because now you're telling her,
she's so
hey,
expressive.
Tell him to stop calling. Now, she's like, hey, you figure she'd be threatened by you.
Like, dramatically
I
expressive.
don't know. I mean,
from what you remember as far as when you talked to her, maybe you didn't take it as serious, but maybe did she? Maybe she was bugged.
You mean like was she throwing things at me or something, or?
Well, no, just.
Am I dramatically expressive?
You're trying to explain like, hey, stop calling me. Stop playing games.
I tell you.
Is this what I'm gonna be like when I'm 50?
I couldn't even tell you how long the conversation. If you said, did it last a half an hour? Did it last 3 minutes? Did it last 20 minutes? I can't even remember. It's been so long ago.
So you would have gone, if it was en route to work, more than likely you would have gone to her work.
That's me.
And had this discussion with her.
I mean, that's sounding familiar.
I'm annoying.
I mean, that's now that you guys are bringing this stuff up.
Fuck.
I mean, that sounds familiar. But again, I mean, what's this got to do with me dating him and her getting killed? I mean, I don't have anything to do with it. And you got something that's somebody said, whatever. I mean,
well, like we said, we just literally got this the other day, and you're going through it.
Yeah.
And you see
and somebody say,
your
oh,
name.
it's next door.
Right, and so I mean, obviously, it's like we recognize the name, and we know that you work next door to us, and so we're trying to get some background. We're trying to figure this out. I mean, this is from a long time ago.
Oh, I know. And
and things have been kind of slow for us. And so, Chief Beck has said, hey, I want you guys working. I don't want you just sitting around reading the paper.
Yeah.
So he's kind of pushing some older cases out even to the guys that work active cases because, and so we see this and we're just like, we want to talk to you about it. But of course, the only reason we did it here is because we're getting into some pretty personal stuff in your relationship.
My husband's on the job, and we've been married
we don't want to take the risk. We don't want to take the risk when one of those interview rooms, and even when the door closed, someone's going to get supplies and sees us on a monitor, or hears or whatever.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, I appreciate it. Like I said,
that's where people go when there's orals. When they're doing orals, guys will go in there and try and watch. And what are the answers to the questions?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we just want to afford you the most privacy and confidentiality we could.
No, I appreciate it. And like I said, I mean, this goes way back, and I mean, it was very sad. Obviously.
It was very sad, but you don't remember anything about it.
I haven't. When we were in college, some of us would go down to his house in San Diego. I went down to his house with him.
San Diego was nice.
I made detective, I think, in 93.
Work history.
Let me get back to as far as when you said that John was calling you to see you. And during that time, you felt that he was either seeing her, was he engaged or married? Did you know?
Couldn't say.
You don't remember?
I don't know.
Well,
let's see. My husband.
But during that time that you were seeing John, was he acting kind of squirrely or kind of sneaking around when he'd hook up with you or anything like that, to make you think, hey, this guy.
He probably was. I mean.
Well, after he hooked up with Sherry, do you know where they were living?
No, you asked me that already. And I said, well, obviously they were living in Van Nuys division.
Yeah.
I may have known.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did he ever give me the address? Maybe. I don't remember. I mean, I don't know.
Because the only reason I'm asking you again is because as we've been talking, I know some stuff has come to you because you're like, oh, it seems like you're shaking. So.
I don't think I've ever gone there. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to say, no, I've never gone there, and then you say, oh, I was at a party. Because I don't, I don't think so.
She's driving me crazy.
Like I said, we've got these friends, we have parties.
Because I know you went to talk to her at the hospital regarding this issue with John.
She was a cop.
What's going to happen here with this thing? But would this ever have followed up to her house when you went to talk to her to say, hey, you know what?
I don't even know that I knew where they lived. That's what I'm saying. I don't. If I knew where they lived and I'd been there, if it was for something social, I would. And I can't see how many times I saw her face to face. He lived on Roscoe. Did I ever see her there? I don't know. I mean, I may have seen her at his apartment on Roscoe.
Mm-hmm.
I may have met her there. I mean.
But you didn't have any issues with her, right?
No, I mean, obviously, if he was dating me and dating her, I probably said, hey, pick or something,
Fair.
Back
That's
then.
Fair.
I mean, would you remember if she snapped on you and just like, hey, man, it's my man, you leave him alone, blah, 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 that kind of stuff? And would you remember an incident like that? I mean, because that would be like, what?
Well, and maybe that happened. I mean, gosh, it's been so long ago. I
get it. It's been so long ago.
Ringing a bell.
Mm-hmm. Because the times I've seen you around at our office,
I'm crazy.
But you're always kind of like real.
We didn't laugh.
I mean, you seem kind of bubbly.
Oh, people think I'm really hyper. But I can get upset. And then I forget 5 seconds later. You know how guys razz you and you go, I mean, I've done that in the office, but it's like, and then I'm,
you do what?
And then I'm, people
water
think,
under the bridge.
Yeah, I mean, it's like people think I'm crazy, and then they think I'm crazy at home, and I'm a hyper person at work. I enjoy my job. I get excited. I enjoy the job. I've always enjoyed the job.
Okay.
And then the guys that lived across from me, Jim Jaskell and Roy Sakaboo, something like that.
Well, one of the concerns I had is looking at some of the notes is some of Sherry's friends said that you and her were having a problem because of the John situation.
God, I want to punch her.
Well, number one, I don't know who her friends are.
I hate her.
Because again, I don't recall if he did tell me where he met her. I don't know even who these friends are. A problem. Like I said, if I spoke to her, I mean, I'll go on as far as a limb, and I don't even want to say I spoke to her 5 times because that's probably not even true. I can't even remember. Again, did I meet him at her place when he lived on Roscoe for, I think, quite a while, but I couldn't tell you how long he lived on Roscoe. And the only reason I remember the place now is because it's like a huge dope place now, where they, it may have been back then, but maybe we didn't know back then. I could have met her there. I could have, I don't even know that I met any of their friends. I don't.
She's been acting
I
baffled for an hour.
If that's a true statement.
Well, that's what I'm reading, is that you guys had problems with each other and words were being exchanged, and it's all relating to John.
You know what? I can't say.
You can't say?
No, that doesn't even ring a bell.
So, I mean, it seemed like, you would recall something if somebody's going off on you, right?
I would think. I would think.
From what you're telling me is when you guys met at the hospital, you guys talked, but it wasn't, from what you recall, confrontational?
I don't think so.
From either side?
I missed the narrator. Where did he go?
I'm trying to, turn my memory back, and I'm trying. I can't even picture the, the conversation. I mean, I can't.
Are they going to show her the evidence?
Well, let me ask you. At the hospital, it never got to the point where people were going, hey, everybody go to your own corner type of thing?
I don't think so.
Nothing like that?
I don't think so. I really don't. If you say people said that, that's not ringing a bell to me at all. It's not. That's not ringing a bell to me at all.
Was there ever a time
the narrator
when you
had
were
enough?
talking and John had to maybe go like, hey, you guys relax, or anything like that?
I think so.
About, ever going to her
Truthful
house and having
expression.
a dispute like that?
Deceptive expression.
I'm just. If I
Predictable
met her ever at his apartment, maybe. Maybe we could have met. I could have met at her apartment. I'm thinking that the hospital thing, that sounds familiar. That I met her there. I just can't say that I've ever. Again, was I there with other people? I don't know. I don't think I ever met her there or him there, meaning one or the other. I don't think so.
Well, I guess basically what I'm asking
feel
is,
bad
were
for
you ever
the-
welcome to the house? Like, hey.
Oh, come
The
over?
detectives.
Yeah, come on over. We're having a barbecue, a dinner party, Christmas party, whatever.
I don't know.
Don't?
I'm just trying to think. Like I said, because there were so many of us that I have 10,000 pictures, okay? I'm a picture nut.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask, when you were seeing John, would you, I take it he would pick you up in his car, you go in her, your car, things of that nature, when you guys would go out?
Well, yeah,
Do you remember what he drove?
Well, I know at one time he drove either a 240 or 260Z.
Any other cars that stand out in your mind?
Show her the evidence. What is she doing?
I don't know how long he drove that 240 or 260Z for. And the only reason I say that is because I think I may have a picture of it with him in it.
What kind of car did you have back then?
Let's see. What year?
Or are you like one of those young cops that's like, oh, I got a paycheck and bought a new car?
Oh, no. I've only had like a few cars in my whole life.
So what'd you have when you came on the job?
Okay, well, my first car was a 68 Chevelle.
Well, like I said, as we were looking at the case, and, we had read the notes as far as from...
I hate her.
Sherry's friends saying you guys had problems or words, and they got heated. And the reason we're asking you is they had mentioned that an incident at her work had occurred, and they've also told us that an incident at her house occurred.
You know what?
And this is at her house during the period of time that they're married.
That's just not sounding familiar at all. I mean, you know what? That's just not sound. Again, if someone says that I was at her house and I had an incident with her, that just doesn't sound. Was John there? Did John say this happened? Because, and other people were there. I don't.
Sounds
recall.
like a car that's failing
it just
to
doesn't
start.
sound,
I
familiar.
can't stand her anymore.
Where you showed up.
Send her to jail.
You were supposed to show
Guilty.
up, and things got heated.
At his house?
Yeah.
That just doesn't sound familiar. I mean,
Nothing.
no. It's not sounding familiar.
So
Not at all.
now you're saying not familiar because it's just something
Well,
you remember, or it's
Well,
just.
you know what? I'd have to say I don't remember, because I don't remember. That doesn't sound familiar.
I mean, would you remember something like that in your life?
Well, I would think,
Some
but
sort of drama involving, the other woman type of
Yeah.
thing?
Did you ever fight with her?
you mean like we fought?
Yeah. Did you ever duke it out with her?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
You'd remember
How
that,
do you
right? That
not
would be
remember
pretty-
that?
yeah, I would think so. I
Pretty
mean,
specific,
yeah, like I said, I mean,
traumatic.
obviously, it just doesn't sound familiar. I mean, what are they saying? So I fought with her. So now I'm getting the jump, the leap. Excuse me, I haven't eaten. They're saying, okay, I fought with her, so I must have killed her.
This is known in psychology as
Oh.
reductio ad absurdum, or appeal to extremes. It's a form of argument that attempts to disprove a statement by showing that it
He's
leads to
back.
an absurd or impractical conclusion.
I mean, come on. I mean,
missed him.
that's, I don't even know who these people are. I can't even say I met any of these people. I mean, it's insane.
Would it be something you would remember? I mean, because I don't know if any other intense incidents in your life that have occurred, I mean, you'd recall those, right? I mean,
Well,
like a use of force at work or a car crash, something you're involved in, you'd be like, yeah, I remember.
you would
'cause
think
it's-
I would remember. I mean, I would think if it was something that crazy. I mean, I can't say. You say, how many fights have you gotten into? In your life. I mean, a few at work.
Well, fights at work are kind of
you know-
different because we've all had uses of force or whatever. But
Well,
I
I
mean,
haven't even had even a lot of those. I mean,
right. But if you're actually,
I mean, I played.
like if Dan and I got mad at each other and we threw blows in the squad room, I mean, 20 years later, I would remember.
You would
it.
remember
I mean,
that.
I would
it would
think I
be
would
pretty-
remember it, but
pretty neat.
that's what I'm saying. That's not sounding familiar to me at all.
I'm looking at the notes,
Mhm.
and these people are kind of, I mean, they're pointing the finger at you,
Well,
and
I mean, that's not ringing a bell to me. So, I don't know. It's I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that just sounds crazy to me.
yeah. So you, offhand, you don't recall ever going into her house and having words and physically,
No, I
attacking
mean,
her attacking you,
no,
nothing like that?
no. I mean, that's no,
Mhm.
no, not at all.
Okay. Well, on some of the, on this case, this it occurred in '86, right? Detectives
Show her
processed
the
scene and
evidence.
Things of that nature. They did fingerprints and all that stuff. The standard
Mhm.
stuff. I mean, you've been doing this longer than I have.
Well, I don't know about that. I got 26 years on, going on 26.
19. So, but as they processed everything, they did the best they could at that time, and they looked at a lot of people and different things in this case. And you're right.
I mean, if you guys are claiming that I'm a suspect, then, I got a problem with, with that.
Okay.
Okay? So,
Uh-huh.
if you're doing this as an interrogation, you're saying, hey, I'm a suspect. Well, now I got a problem with, now you're accusing me of this? Is that what you're saying?
We're trying to figure out what happened, Stephanie.
Well, I'm just saying,
Oh, she angry.
do I need to get a lawyer if you're accusing me of
I mean,
this?
You don't have to. I mean,
I'm just-
you're here of your own free will. I mean,
No,
you don't,
I know, but
I mean, you're not under arrest. You can walk out.
you
Whenever
can leave
feel
whenever
like.
you like.
well,
But-
I'm trying to give you some background of how I knew him, and now you're telling me that somebody's saying that we had this big old fight, and I don't even know what you're talking about. you know, and I don't want to, you know, get in trouble for something that I didn't even do, or you're saying I did something.
Okay.
Yeah, we understand.
I mean, how would you guys like it if the tables were turned on you?
I understand. No.
No, that's what we're telling you. I mean, you're free to go whenever you want. If this makes you uncomfortable and you want to,
Well, now you're starting
Just
to make
leave,
me uncomfortable.
Smiley.
The thing is, I mean, detectives did what they could at that time on the crime scene. Okay, and the burglary thing you're talking about, that is an angle that they looked at. But now we're looking at everything else on the case, because nobody was ever arrested on the case.
I don't know that or not.
Okay. Now, what we'd like to do is, obviously, you know about all the DNA stuff and things of the nature.
Uh-oh, it's coming.
Gets done on cases now.
It's coming.
You know, if we asked you for a DNA swab, would you be willing to give us one?
Maybe.
Oh.
Because now,
Because
now I'm thinking I probably need to talk to a lawyer.
Okay.
I mean,
Well,
because I know how this stuff works. Okay, don't get me wrong. You're right. I have been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
And I wish I had been recording this because now it sounds like, you know, there's, you know, you're telling these people saying I'm fighting with her, and now it sounds like you're trying to, you know, I've been doing this a long time.
yeah.
We know.
Okay. And now it almost sounds like you're trying to pin something on me.
No,
now
but-
I got that sense.
Well, what it gets to on these cases, and you know it as well as I do, our job is to identify and eliminate
I
suspects.
can't believe this.
So if we ask you to the point to give us a DNA sample, a buccal swab, so we can identify or eliminate you, would you be willing to do that?
Maybe.
Well,
Because I know this.
well, that's where we're at too. I mean, because
Maybe.
right now, from looking at the evidence, it's, you know, it's possible we may have some DNA at the location.
Oh.
That's great.
And
Oh shit.
we're going to do what we can to try to put this thing together. And your name's in the book. These people are pointing at you for whatever reason.
I don't know why.
And-
That's just crazy. I mean, that's absolutely crazy.
And
She's
it would be
scary.
irresponsible on our part not to look at it.
I know. You guys have to do your job,
And-
and I guess I'm gonna have to contact somebody. So,
That's fair.
I mean, because I know how this stuff works. I
Sure.
mean, I just can't believe it.
That's.
I
I mean,
guess-
we understand that. I mean, if we were in your position, I mean, we would feel the same way.
I just can't even believe it. I mean, it's just. I mean, I'm shocked. I'm really shocked that somebody would be saying that I did this. I mean, we had a fight, and so I went and killed her. I mean, come on.
Well,
That's.
okay.
All right.
Well, thanks for giving me the courtesy. I wish I could record it.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Stephanie, take care.
All right.
Does she come back? Bring the camera. Bring us.
This is absolutely crazy.
Have a seat, Stephanie.
This is insane.
Okay.
It's insane getting caught 27 years later. She's probably so surprised this is back in her life.
Okay. Stephanie, you know you have the right to remain silent. Do you understand?
Yes,
Anything you say may be used against you in court. Do you understand?
yes,
You have the right to the presence of an attorney before and during any questioning. Do you understand?
yes.
If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you free of charge before any questioning if you want. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you want to talk to us right now?
No.
All right.
Okay.
This
then.
is crazy.
Is she cuffed?
I'm like in shock.
I think
I'm
she is.
totally in shock.
They cuffed her.
We are back on the record in
Verdict.
People versus Lazarus. Shortly before noon, the jury announced they have a verdict. We will take the verdict at this time.
People of the State of California versus Stephanie Eileen Lazarus. Case number BA 357423. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Stephanie Eileen Lazarus, guilty of the crime of murder of Sherry Rasmussen in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony, as charged in count 1 of the information. We further find the murder was of the first degree.
Your Honor, I'm John Rutten. Thank you for the opportunity to speak during this hearing. There are really no words that can describe the loss of Sherry.
Wow.
and the whole of this experience, so it makes no sense to talk very long. It suffices to say that the Rasmussen family, my family, and Stephanie's family have been thrust into a bizarre world of disbelief and indescribable sadness.
Oh my God.
Sherry Rasmussen had a profound impact on so many people.
Oh my God. No.
And I was proud that she agreed to be my wife.
Oh my God.
It was impossible not to notice Sherry when she entered a room. To me, her physical presence was startling. I can clearly remember the first moment I laid eyes on her. Sherry Rasmussen was a physical presence, and my heart still races when I look at pictures of her. But Sherry was extraordinary, more for who she was than the way she looked. She was a hard worker, a consummate professional, a leader, a diplomat, forgiving, tough, and a kid at heart. Sherry's loss, the way she died, and the trial 25 years after her death has had a profound impact on many, many others. The effects are broad and span a generation, creating pain for those whose lives should have never
Yeah,
been
he
touched by
cheated
this
on her,
tragic
so what
event.
the hell is this?
Again, words are feeble tools for describing these impacts,
Well,
but there are so many moments
the
and
hell?
so very many tears.
I'm so confused.
And the fact that Sherry's death occurred because she met and married me brings me to my knees.
Stephanie Lazarus was sentenced to 27 years to life for the murder of Sherry Rasmussen. She is currently being held inside the maximum security unit of the Central California Women's Facility.
Any other cars that stand out in your mind?
I hate that. I can't. Nope. Okay. Why do they have... Why?